There is an idea floating around that we can save our planet by utilizing more fossil fuels and relying less on green energy and putting less money into green energy research. Most people cite this guy, Alex Epstein, a philosopher that has revolutionized how we look at fossil fuels. He may be one of the most influential lobbyists for big oil and coal energy. I used to think that he was one of the biggest enemies to those fighting against climate change, that his ideas were so radical that they were almost borderline dangerous. But did his book change my mind? I'm Steve, and welcome to Steve Talks. Today we're looking at the book Fossil Future by Alex Epstein. I'm going to preface this by saying I am a wildlife biologist by training. I do not have much expertise in energy production policy making, physics, or anything else that would make me an expert in the fuel industry. What I do have is a lot of understanding how wildlife biology is influenced and impacted by how we humans interact with the world around us. That being said, I went into this book with an open mind. So let's begin. Who is Alex Epstein? Alex Epstein is a philosopher who debates against green energy development and advocates for the use of fossil fuels such as coal, oil, natural gas as the only thing that could possibly save us from ourselves. He has been featured on Fox News and Newsmax. He has also had the opportunity to lecture at Harvard, Stanford, Yale, as well as testify in front of Congress on numerous times. He is considered an expert in his field. So what does this book say? The biggest thing that this book claims is that people have prospered because of the use of fossil fuels. And because we have prospered in the past, we must continue to use them in the future so that everybody can have an equal foot to stand on. His book advocates the fossil fuel industry while saying that green energy technology, research into green energy, research into renewable energies will never amount to anything. Because fossil fuels gives you the most bang for your buck, green energy is doomed to always fail in comparison. And for that reason, we should spend more money on fossil fuels and less money on green energy. Some of his arguments for pushing green energy and renewables aside. It will limit the development of developing nations. He believes that giving access to fuel, coal, those type of energy producing sources in Africa will help raise people in Africa above their current level a lot faster than green energy ever will, and also that it will provide more benefit. He also claims in his book that because of the inability of green energy and renewables to be able to be used at all times of the day, that it will lead to death and destruction, especially in the medical field, as people depend on steady supply of energy in order to receive the treatments that they must. He does admit in his book that carbon dioxide produced by humans has increased the warming effects that we feel globally. His book claims that these effects are a benefit, that a melting tundra in Russia creates more farmland, that increased carbon dioxide in the atmosphere helps with the growth of plants and creates a flourishing effect rather than an effect that could be detrimental to us. Some of his other claims as far as the benefits of warming is that people die more often from cold than they do from heat. And so a warmer environment, especially in the polar regions, is a benefit because it does help reduce the impacts of the cold on the people around. Now we're going to get into the parts of the book that made me want to put it down, made me want to throw it out the window, made me want to throw it in the trash, made me want to burn it. I am not an advocate for book burning. I believe that everybody's voice has some merit, but these are the parts that I hated. The overarching message of this book is that humans are above nature, that everything we do should benefit humanity, and if things in nature fall by the wayside, it's okay because humans will flourish. This is exemplified in his claim that we should still be using the chemical compound DDT. This was banned back in the 80s because they found that bioaccumulation led to the weakening of bird of prey, raptor eggshells, and we almost lost eagle populations, hawk populations, anything that ate fish that had ingested anything from the DDT compound was causing the population to decrease. This is proven. He has basically said that DDT is good because it kills malaria infected West Nile yellow fever infected mosquitoes. And because it benefits humanity, the losses to wildlife are okay. As somebody that has studied wildlife biology, ecology for the last 8 years, I found this extremely off-putting. I find it reckless, and when you start playing God with the environment around you, so it benefits only yourself and puts other things on the wayside, it shows an ego that I just can't stand. Another claim of his book that I did not like is the claim that putting resources and energy into green energy development and renewable research is akin to genocide. He, in the last chapter, he says that you must argue to 100 in order to be heard. You must be controversial. Well, this is controversial. To say that taking money away from big oil in order to research an alternative is akin to genocide is 100, and I think it is the wrong 100. It isn't akin to genocide. In the same thing, he says that green energy development and a goal of net zero is the same as the internment camps from World War II Germany and akin to Stalin and his radical regime and the mass killing of people who were against him. His claim that a goal of having net zero emissions is dangerous because of the benefits of heating, it disregards the entire ecosystem of the world. So, we're going to rebut just a little bit. In his book, he claims that climate-related deaths are at an all-time low, that we don't die by heat, we don't die from fires, we don't die from cold as much because fossil fuels have made it that way. He doesn't look at the effects of pollution, the increase in asthma, the increase in respiratory illness, the increase of diseases jumping species barrier. He doesn't look at those as being related to climate. He just looks at the black and the white in order to make his point. He makes a claim, and this is one that was used back in the 80s and 90s, that coal's benefits outweigh its negative, and we have figured out how to make coal clean. I'm going to reiterate something that has been said many times by many people a lot smarter than me. There is no such thing as clean coal. Coal burns dirty. If you go into any home that is heated by a coal stove, there is a soot and ash that covers every part of that house. The mining process coats the miner's lungs in this dust that causes a mineralization of the lung tissue, and people will die of black lung just from coal, just from the mining process itself. That's just the getting it out of the ground and like burning it at a small scale. At a high scale, it releases sulfur into the atmosphere. The sulfur combines with oxygen, creating sulfur dioxide, combines with rainwater, creates sulfuric acid. This sulfuric acid has been known to be detrimental to pine tree forests, detrimental to limestones, detrimental to caves, flora and fauna that are found deep underground as the water seeps through. It is extremely dangerous part of the coal industry that many people don't talk, as well as the amount of air pollution from the coal industry is extremely high. If you look at places like Beijing or Shanghai, you're going to see the amount of smog from their coal burning plants is just through the roof. A lot of it is the source of their power, the source of their energy. He makes a claim that as the abilities of our technology increase, the need for more energy increases, and renewables will never basically put this to rest. This is true to a point, but there are people that are trying to figure out the effectiveness of energy and the effectiveness of bringing things back under control. He has a limited scope. There is a point in this book where he admits that he couldn't find evidence for what he wanted to argue, so he created his own idea of what scientists should say. This is not scientific. This is lobbying. This is taking an idea and cherry-picking pieces to make your idea stronger to other people while ignoring the things that detract. The whole point of the scientific method is to take, I don't agree with this, I'm going to develop an experiment to try and figure out if what you're saying is true or not. If you can disprove people using the scientific method, more power to you. But to cherry pick pieces of the scientific community while throwing out others, it just doesn't work that way. And it shows a lack of knowledge and a lack of willingness to understand how science works from this author. When he admitted this in his book, it made me question every single thing that he said. It throws a wrench in what he's trying to accomplish with this book, and it makes me question the validity of this book. So did he change my mind? You might be sitting here listening to everything that I said and say, no, he didn't change my mind. Well, he did to an extent. He argued well enough that I don't believe that a drastic, fast change from fossil fuels to green energy is the right way. It ignores the poor among us. It ignores those in rural communities who can't afford to adopt technology as fast as we can, and who often are last and overlooked when it comes to new technology rollout. There are still places here in the United States that don't have high-speed internet. Technology doesn't reach the rural communities as fast as it does the cities. And this actually, if you were to say everybody must buy an electric car by this date, harms the people that are helping produce our foods out in the rural areas more than it helps save the environment. I do believe him when he says that fossil fuels have increased our ability to survive, have helped humans flourish, have made it so that we are more able to adapt and more able to be a higher being on this planet. I agree with all of that. But I don't agree that we should put our needs over the needs of everything else around us. Is there anything redeeming about this book? He has amazing anecdotes. He's got stories from experts and non-experts alike that share information about what he's talking about, which are entertaining. At one point, he talks about how the oil that we're using is akin to solar energy captured by dinosaurs. And in a weird way, I love that. It's clever, it's funny. He wrote this book not for the scientific community. In the beginning of the book, he says, I will change your mind. If you have an open mind, I will change your mind, in my opinion. He wrote this book for the people that were already leaning towards siding with him, and for the people that had already quasi-made up their mind that fossil fuels are the future and green energy is a waste of time. That's who this book was written for. So, I did not enjoy it as much as I could have. Like I said, anecdotes were great, stories, jokes, all the things that he put into it made the book readable. Now, my rating on it. I give it 2 out of 5 stars. The reason why I didn't give it 1 star is because there are things that he says in it that are factual. There are statistics that he uses that do prove a point, and it is written extremely well. The reason why it doesn't go higher than 3 or 4 is because I feel like it is full of contradictions, hypocrisies, and scientific methodology that are actually detrimental to what he's trying to do. If he would have stuck to the facts without throwing in humans are better than nature, so we should continue to strive to be above them, it may not have read as well, but I wouldn't have lost as much respect for him as I had started to gain as I was reading through this. So 2 out of 5 stars. Will I read anything else by Alex Epstein? In the future, possibly. I do like to see where people who disagree with me lie. I do like to understand where and how people think, and it helps me learn how to interact with people in the world. I believe that there is value in looking at opinions that you don't agree with all the time. And that is why I will continue to read books such as this. But I'm not going to tell you not to read it. Like I said, altering opinions are great. Maybe he will do a better job of changing your mind than he did of mine. We'll see you next time.